In the previous video, we saw how workload can be adjusted to optimize resource utilization. The next step is for team leaders to identify and propose suitable staff. And each team leader will see a list of outstanding requests for their resources. In this example, here's a list for Anne Brown. Now, Anne Brown is the team leader for analysts, and she's got a list of requests here from a number of projects. We're going to start off looking at this request here for project new 5. So there's a link here that we click on, and that takes us into a view here, which is really two panes. The upper pane, the upper row, gives the detail of that request. So it's for project new 5, task design, looking for analyst resource. There are no required languages. It's a request. The resource name at this stage is still the generic analyst. As she proposes someone, that name will change to the name of the candidate that she has suggested. And we can see to the right here is the profile of the work. Now, looking below here in the lower pane, we can see there's a list of the people in her team, and we can see how busy they are. So for John Smith, for example, if we look at the upper row there and hover on it, this is showing his work. So where he's overloaded, things go red, and where he's too severely underloaded, things go green. And so this is a heat map really, which shows how busy each team member is period by period. Looking at this, we can see that Nat is fairly free for the time, has in fact no work for the time that this request has come in for. So he looks like the obvious person to use. The analyst line here is just a summary of the outstanding requests. So that's the work for analysts that is yet to be dealt with. And we saw that was the original list we saw in Anne Brown's home page. So what we do here is simply a simple drag and drop. We just highlight how much of that work we want to assign to Nat. In this case, it's all of it. We'll pick it up and drag it down to his row and release that. And the system says, okay, Nat has sufficient capacity to do all of that work. We've moved it to him. You will see that the name has changed, the resource name has changed to his name. And if we save that, then that has now been done. Now, the system can be configured such that if Nat didn't have capacity to do all of that work, you can set some options to say, well, do you want to give it all to Nat anyway, or just fill him up to his spare capacity? In which case the balance of work will be left in that upper row there, still with the analyst as the resource. So that's the way of using this system, where you've got a fairly simple drag and drop. You know the attributes and the competences of your people, and so you can just decide who will be a suitable person to propose. The second example is a slightly more complicated one, and this is for new 6. Oh, you'll see when we return here, that request for new 5 has actually been removed from that list because it's been dealt with. So let's look at new 6 now. Here we've got another request for analysts, but in this case, the project manager has asked for some additional competencies, some language competencies, preferably in French and German. Now, it may well be that if there's a geographically dispersed organization, that it may well be that the resource manager, team leader, doesn't know what these language competencies are of these people. And so they want to use the database to search. And so we use a slightly different approach here. We go to that row, we right click and look at the replace resource menu. And what that does is it brings up a list here which says, okay, here are a list of the people in the analyst team. We know we are looking for French and German. And the list shows here the people, whether they're available or busy, and they're ordered by their language competencies. So the best fit is John, who is available but just speaks German. Larry is also available, but he speaks Japanese and Chinese, so that's not very helpful. Nat has a competency in French, but he's busy, so you may decide that we're going to have to reallocate here, and Nat will be a better bet than John. But in this case, John is the best fit, so we simply say, okay, let's save that. And that goes back to this screen. The situation now then is that that work has been given to John. You can see there John's been shown that, and we're also showing in this upper pane here both what the requested competences were and what his competences are. In other words, the competences of the proposed person, and we can just change that there, that status, to proposed, and save that off, and that now completes that allocation. So those are the two different ways in which the system can help the team leaders search for and allocate people to the requests. And then finally, if we go back to the home page, we see that the requests that have been dealt with disappear from the outstanding requests. And if we look at the My Staff usage here, which is the work that the analysts have been assigned to, we can see John Smith, there's a row for the New 6 project there, and his assignment status, he's a proposed candidate, and the same also for Nat here on New 5, or we didn't change him to proposed, but there is his bit of work there against Nat. Okay, so I hope that gives an indication, a useful indication as to how the system helps with resource allocation. If you have any questions, please do come back to us.